I've been seeing someone else, James. I don't love you anymore, Ella said, her voice sharp as she stood in their Miami condo, eyes avoiding his. James, still in his paramedic uniform, froze mid-step, the weight of her words hitting like a sudden drop in air pressure. He forced a calm smile. That's fine, he replied, because I've already hired a lawyer. Ella's confident facade cracked, her mouth parting as panic flickered in her eyes. James Bennett, 32, navigated Miami's chaotic streets with the precision of a seasoned paramedic. His hands, steady on the ambulance wheel, had saved countless lives, each call a high-stakes puzzle he solved under pressure. Tonight, the city hummed with its usual rhythm, neon lights flashing, waves crashing nearby, and the distant pulse of South Beach nightlife. James thrived in this chaos, his focus unyielding whether stabilizing a heart attack victim or weaving through traffic with sirens blaring. His colleagues at Station 12 admired his ability to stay composed, even when a call turned grim. Just last week, he pulled a 6-year-old from a mangled sedan, keeping her calm until her parents arrived, tears of gratitude in their eyes. That was James, reliable, selfless, the guy you wanted in a crisis. At home, Ella, 30, curated a different kind of life. A social media manager, she crafted campaigns from their Coconut Grove condo, her laptop glowing late into the night. Her charm and quick wit won clients over, her posts about their beachside coffee dates or weekend kayaking trips, painting a picture of a couple in sync. James believed it too. Their schedules, his night shifts, her remote work, meshed seamlessly. When he left for work at dusk, she'd kiss him goodbye, promising to wait up with takeout from their favorite taco truck. To the outside world, they were solid, a couple who'd weathered the pandemic and built a life of quiet affection. But tonight, as James checked the ambulance's equipment under the station's fluorescent lights, a nagging unease settled in his gut. Ella had been distant lately. Her work calls stretched past midnight, her phone buzzing with notifications she'd quickly silence. Last Sunday, she'd left for a client dinner in Coral Gables, returning after 2 with vague excuses about traffic. James had brushed it off. Trust was their foundation. He'd never checked her phone or questioned her loyalty. After all, she'd posted a glowing anniversary tribute just a month ago, calling him her rock. He clung to that image as he climbed into the driver's seat, waiting for the night's first call. The radio crackled at 11:47 p.m. Unit 12, respond to a 2-vehicle collision, possible injuries, Ocean Drive and 13th Street. Dispatch barked. James confirmed, flipped on the sirens, and sped towards South Beach, his partner, Maria, prepping the medical kit beside him. The route was familiar. Tourists often underestimated Miami's slick roads after a night out. 6 minutes later, they arrived at a chaotic scene. A crumpled BMW on the curb, headlights glaring, and a pickup truck blocking the intersection. A police officer waved back a small crowd as James parked and grabbed his gear. He approached the BMW, scanning for injuries. The driver, a man in his 40s, slumped over the wheel, blood trickling from his temple. James's training kicked in. Check vitals, secure the neck, call for a stretcher. But as he moved to the passenger side, his heart lurched. Ella sat there, dazed, a thin cut above her brow, her seatbelt taut. Her eyes widened as they met his, recognition mixing with something else, guilt. James's pulse spiked, but he forced himself to focus. Stay still, he said, his voice clipped as he assessed her condition. Stable, responsive, minor lacerations. He signaled Maria for a second stretcher. Who's the guy? James asked, keeping his tone professional as he checked her pupils. Ella hesitated, her breath hitching. Just a work friend, she mumbled, avoiding his gaze. The man's wedding ring glinted under the streetlights, and James noticed Ella's purse wedged intimately against the driver's seat. His mind raced. This wasn't a casual ride. He secured Ella on the stretcher, his hands steady despite the storm inside. Maria worked on the driver, who was unresponsive but breathing. James drove to Miami General, the sirens screaming louder than his thoughts. At the hospital, he handed Ella and the man to the ER team, filling out the report with mechanical precision. Ella tried to speak, but he cut her off. Not now, he said, his voice low. Back at the station, he sat in the break room, staring at his untouched coffee. The image of Ella in that car burned into his mind. A work friend? At midnight on Ocean Drive? He pulled out his phone, Hesitating, then texted his friend Ryan, a private investigator. Need a favor, he typed. Discreet. The reply came fast. Call me tomorrow. James nodded to himself. Whatever Ella was hiding, he'd find out. And he'd handle it his way. Calm, calculated, and unstoppable. James gripped the steering wheel, navigating Miami's pre-dawn streets as a shift ended. The image of Ella in that car with another man gnawed at him, each detail sharpening his unease. He'd seen her hesitation, the way her eyes darted away when he asked about the stranger. Work friend? The lie was flimsy, and James wasn't the type to ignore a gut feeling. He parked outside their Coconut Grove condo, the building's quiet facade mocking the chaos in his mind. Inside, he found Ella's shoes by the door, her phone charging on the kitchen counter. She was at the hospital, under observation, but her absence didn't ease the tension. He sat, staring at the phone, tempted to unlock it but held back by a flicker of restraint. Instead, he dialed Ryan, his old friend turned private investigator. Got a name for the guy in the car? James asked, voice steady but low. Ryan promised to dig, starting with the accident report and hospital records. Give me 24 hours, he said. James hung up, his mind racing through the past weeks. Ella's late-night texts, her sudden client meetings in Betrayal, the way she'd lock her laptop when he entered the room. Clues he dismissed as stress now formed a pattern he couldn't ignore. He grabbed his keys and headed to the station for another shift, determined to stay focused. Lives depended on him, and he wouldn't let personal turmoil break his resolve. At Station 12, the day was relentless. Back-to-back calls for a bar fight, a heat stroke case, and a near-drowning off-Key Biscayne. James moved through each with precision, but Maria, his partner, noticed his clipped responses. You good? She asked during a rare lull. He nodded, deflecting with a question about the next call. Between runs, he checked his phone. Ryan had texted. Driver's name is Diego Morales, 42, married, owns a marketing firm in Coral Gables. Ella's been working with his company for 6 months. James's jaw tightened. Diego wasn't just a client. The front seat intimacy at the crash site told a different story. That evening, James visited the hospital, signing in as Ella's emergency contact. She was awake, a bandage on her forehead, sitting up in bed. Her eyes widened as he entered, but he kept his expression neutral. How's your head? He asked, pulling a chair close. She mumbled about a mild concussion, then tried to steer the conversation to the accident. It was just a ride, James. Diego offered to drop me off after a late meeting. Her voice wavered, and she clutched the blanket. James leaned forward. You were on Ocean Drive at midnight. No meetings happened there. Ella's gaze dropped, her fingers twisting the hospital bracelet. He pressed further, asking why she was in the front seat, why she hadn't mentioned leaving that night. Her answers stumbled. First a work emergency, then a last-minute favor. The contradictions piled up, and James's patience thinned. He stood, pacing to the window. I know who Diego is, he said, turning to face her. Married. Your client. What else aren't you telling me? Ella's breath hitched, but she doubled down. It's not what you think. We were just talking business. James shook his head, the lie too blatant to entertain. He left the room without another word, his mind set on action. Back at the condo, he rifled through Ella's desk, finding a hidden burner phone in a drawer. It was locked, but the discovery confirmed his suspicions. He texted Ryan the phone's number, asking for a trace. Ryan replied within an hour, registered to Diego. Frequent calls to Ella's main line, mostly at night. James's next move was calculated. He contacted a divorce lawyer, Sarah Vega, recommended by a colleague. Over coffee in downtown Miami, he laid out the facts. Ella's evasiveness, the accident, the burner phone. Sarah advised gathering more evidence before filing, suggesting a financial audit of their joint accounts. James agreed, then called Ryan again, asking him to tail Diego. By nightfall, Ryan sent photos. Diego and Ella at a secluded bar in Wynwood 2 weeks prior, their hands touching across a table. The images hit James like a physical blow, but he channeled the pain into resolve. He wouldn't confront Ella yet. He'd build an airtight case. The next day, Ella was discharged. James picked her up, his demeanor cold but civil. In the car, she tried small talk, mentioning work deadlines. He stayed silent, focusing on the road. At home, she hesitated at the door, sensing the shift in him. James, can we talk? she asked, voice small. He turned, arms crossed. Not until you're ready to tell the truth. Her eyes glistened, but she said nothing, retreating to the couch. James spent the night in the guest room, the distance between them now a chasm. Ryan's next call brought more. Diego's wife, Sophia, was a high-powered attorney unaware of the affair. James saved her contact info, knowing she'd be his next call. He wasn't after revenge, just justice, clean and lawful. James sat at the kitchen table, the burner phone in his hand, its locked screen a silent accusation. Ella slept in the next room, her presence in their Coconut Grove condo now a source of tension rather than comfort. He'd spent the night piecing together Ryan's findings. Diego Morales, Ella's supposed client, had been meeting her for months, their late-night rendezvous carefully timed during James's paramedic shifts. The photos from Wynwood, Diego's hand on hers, their heads close, burned in his memory. He set the phone down and dialed Sophia Morales, Diego's wife. Her voicemail was crisp, professional, a stark contrast to the chaos James was about to unleash. "This is James Bennett," he said, voice steady. "I have information about your husband. Call me." Morning broke over Miami, the city's heat already pressing against the windows. James left for work before Ella woke, leaving a note, "We'll talk tonight." At Station 12, he threw himself into the day's calls, a cyclist hit on Biscayne Boulevard, a diabetic emergency in Little Havana. Each task grounded him, his hands moving with practiced precision despite the storm in his chest. Maria, his partner, sensed his focus but didn't pry, her quick nods enough to keep their rhythm intact. Between calls, James checked his phone. Sophia had texted, "Meet me at 2 p.m. Bayside Marketplace, outdoor cafe." He confirmed, his pulse quickening at the prospect of exposing Diego. At the cafe, Sophia sat with a coffee, her posture rigid, eyes scanning the crowd. James introduced himself, sliding into the seat across from her. "Your husband's been seeing my wife," he said bluntly, passing her the photos Ryan had sent. Sophia's face tightened as she scrolled through the evidence, her fingers pausing on the image of Diego and Ella at the bar. "How long?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. James recounted the timeline. 6 months, maybe more, based on Ella's late-night meetings and a burner phone. Sophia nodded, her jaw set. "Diego's done this before," she admitted, "but I thought we'd move past it." She promised to handle her side and thanked James for his honesty, her eyes betraying a mix of anger and resolve. Back at the station, James's phone buzzed with a new message from Ryan. Bank records showed Ella had been withdrawing cash from their joint account, small amounts that added up to thousands, likely to cover her secret outings. The betrayal deepened, but James stayed calm, channeling his energy into planning. He met his lawyer, Sarah Vega, at her office in downtown Miami, handing over the financial records and photos. "This strengthens your case," Sarah said, outlining a divorce filing that cited infidelity and financial misconduct. James instructed her to prepare the papers, but hold off serving them. He wanted Ella to confess first. That evening, he returned home to find Ella pacing the living room, her phone clutched tightly. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. James sat, arms crossed, his silence a challenge. She started with the same story. Diego was just a colleague, the accident a coincidence, but her words faltered under his steady gaze. "I spoke to Sophia today," he said, cutting through her excuses. "She knows everything. So do I." Ella's eyes widened, her hands shaking as she sank onto the couch. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she blurted, tears spilling. "Diego, he made me feel seen, alive. It started as coffee, then dinners. I didn't mean for it to go this far." James leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "You lied to me for months. You used our money, our home, my trust." Ella sobbed, admitting the affair began at a marketing conference, Diego's attention filling a void she hadn't acknowledged. She swore it wasn't love, just a reckless escape from routine. James listened, his face unreadable, but inside, her confession tore at the life he thought they'd built. He stood, grabbing his keys. "I'm filing for divorce," he said. "You can stay here tonight, but start packing tomorrow." Ella reached for him, but he stepped back, leaving her in the quiet condo. Outside, James drove to the beach, the ocean's rhythm calming his racing thoughts. He called Ryan, asking for one last favor: track Diego's movements for a week. If Ella's lover was a serial cheater, as Sophia suggested, there might be more to uncover. Ryan agreed, promising updates. James hung up, staring at the waves. He'd trusted Ella completely, built his world around her, but now that world was crumbling. Yet, in the wreckage, he felt a spark of clarity. He'd rebuild, not for revenge, but for himself. The next move was his, and he'd make it count. James woke to the hum of his phone, Ryan's text lighting up the screen. Diego's meeting another woman tonight, same bar in Wynwood. Photos incoming. James sat up on the guest room couch. The condo silent, except for the faint sound of Ella packing in the bedroom. Her confession last night had confirmed the affair, but Ryan's message suggested Diego's betrayal extended beyond Ella. James forwarded the text to Sophia, adding, "You should see this." He showered, dressed, and left for work, his mind sharp with purpose. Today he'd tie up loose ends. At Station 12, James tackled a grueling shift, carrying a heart attack victim down 3 flights in Little Haiti, then rushing a toddler with a severe allergic reaction to the ER. His hand stayed steady, but his thoughts churned. Ella's bags were by the door when he'd left, a sign she was moving to her cousins in Key West. He hadn't spoken to her since their confrontation, and he didn't plan to. His focus was on protecting himself, legally, financially, emotionally. During a break, he called Sarah Vega, his lawyer, authorizing her to serve Ella the divorce papers. "Include the financial misconduct," he instructed, referencing the cash withdrawals Ryan uncovered. Sarah confirmed the filing would be ready by evening. Sophia called as James restocked the ambulance. "I'm confronting Diego tonight," she said, her voice edged with controlled fury. "He's at that bar again. I'm done being played." James offered to meet her there, not for drama, but to ensure she had backup. She agreed, naming a time, 9 p.m. He hung up, feeling the weight of shared betrayal. Sophia's resolve mirrored his own. She wasn't seeking vengeance, just accountability. James texted Ryan to keep watch, ensuring they'd have evidence if Diego tried to lie his way out. At 8:45 p.m., James parked near the Wynwood bar, a trendy spot with pulsing music and neon signs. Sophia waited outside, her posture tense but composed. They entered together, spotting Diego at a corner table, laughing with a woman who wasn't Ella. Sophia approached, her voice cutting through the noise. "Enjoying your evening, Diego?" He froze, his charm evaporating as he saw his wife and James. The woman at the table, confused, grabbed her purse and left. Diego stammered, claiming it was a business meeting, but Sophia held up her phone, showing Ryan's photos of him with Ella and now this new woman. "You're done," she said, tossing a folder of divorce papers on the table. "Sign these, or I'll bury you in court." James stayed silent, his presence a quiet anchor for Sophia. Diego's eyes darted to him, recognition dawning. "You're Ella's husband," he muttered, shrinking. James nodded, his voice calm but firm. "You used my wife to cheat on yours. Now you answer to Sophia." Diego's bravado collapsed. He mumbled apologies, but Sophia walked out, James following. Outside, she thanked him, her eyes glistening but resolute. "I'm selling his firm's assets," she said. "He'll lose everything." James nodded, respecting her strength. They parted ways, each determined to reclaim their lives. Back home, James found Ella gone, her bags replaced by a note. "I'm sorry. I'll stay in Key West. Good luck." He crumpled it, feeling no relief, only finality. He called Sarah, confirming the divorce papers were served to Ella's cousin's address. Ryan sent a final report. Diego's marketing firm lost 2 major clients after Sophia leaked his infidelity to industry contacts. Ella's contract with Diego's company was terminated, her professional reputation taking a hit. James sat alone, the condo's silence heavy but not oppressive. He'd exposed the truth without raising a fist, letting consequences fall where they belonged. The next day, James met a therapist recommended by Maria, a step toward processing the betrayal. He spoke candidly about the hurt, the trust shattered, but also his refusal to let it define him. After the session, he drove to the station, where his captain offered him a promotion to lead paramedic. "You've earned it," she said, citing his unshakable focus. James accepted, feeling a spark of pride. He wasn't healed, but he was moving forward, his integrity intact. Diego and Ella faced their reckonings, while James chose a path of quiet strength, ready for whatever came next. James jogged along Miami's South Beach at dawn, the ocean's steady rhythm matching his strides. 3 months had passed since Ella's departure, and the condo, now his alone, held no traces of her. Her belongings gone, her name off the lease. The divorce was finalized last week, Sarah Vega ensuring Ella's financial misconduct cost her half their shared savings. James felt no vindication, only closure. He'd rebuilt his life step by step, refusing to let betrayal anchor him. Today, he was due at Station 12 to train new paramedics, his promotion to lead now official. At the station, James briefed a group of recruits, his voice clear as he demonstrated tourniquet application. His confidence steadied them, much like it had saved lives during countless emergencies. Maria, now a close friend, pulled him aside during a break. "You're different," she said, smiling. "Lighter." James nodded, admitting therapy had helped him process the pain without letting it fester. He didn't mention Ella or Diego, but Maria understood, offering to join him for a run later. He agreed, grateful for connections that didn't carry the weight of his past. Mid-shift, James's phone buzzed with a message from Ryan. Diego's firm had folded, his reputation ruined after Sophia's strategic leaks to industry insiders. Sophia herself had opened a new law practice, thriving despite her own divorce. James deleted the message, uninterested in Diego's downfall. He'd chosen to let justice run its course without personal pursuit. Instead, he focused on a call that came in, a multi-car pileup on I-95. He led the response, coordinating with fire crews to extract a trapped driver, his commands sharp and effective. The victim, stabilized and en route to the hospital, grabbed James's hand, whispering thanks. Moments like these reminded him why he kept going. After the shift, James met Maria and a few colleagues at a small diner near Key Biscayne. Over burgers, they swapped stories of tough calls and shared laughs, the camaraderie easing the solitude he'd felt since Ella left. A new paramedic, Carlos, mentioned a local running club that met weekends at the beach. "You should come," he said. James signed up on the spot, craving routine beyond work. The next Saturday, he joined the group, keeping pace with runners who shared his drive, but none of his history. One, a teacher named Lena, matched his stride and struck up a conversation about Miami's hidden trails. They exchanged numbers, not for romance, but for friendship, a small step toward a fuller life. Meanwhile, Ella settled into her new reality in Key West. Her cousin's cramped apartment was a far cry from the Coconut Grove condo, and her new job, managing social media for a local restaurant, paid less but demanded less pretense. She hadn't contacted James, respecting his boundaries, but late at night, she scrolled through old photos, pausing on one from their last beach trip. Regret hit hard, but she channeled it into work, rebuilding her reputation one post at a time. Her former colleagues in Miami had distanced themselves, the scandal with Diego's firm tainting her professional circle. She didn't fight it, accepting the consequences as her own. James, back in Miami, took on more responsibilities at the station, mentoring recruits with a mix of patience and rigor. His captain praised his leadership, hinting at a regional training role if he wanted it. He considered it, weighing the chance to shape more lives against the comfort of his current routine. At home, he hung a new photo on the wall, a shot from a recent run, the Miami skyline glowing at dusk. It wasn't about erasing Ella, but about claiming his space. He cooked dinner, a simple stir-fry, and ate alone, the quiet no longer heavy but purposeful. One evening, walking the beach after a run, James spotted a family building a sandcastle, their laughter carrying over the waves. He paused, reflecting on the future he'd once envisioned with Ella. Kids, a bigger home, shared dreams. That vision was gone, but the ache had dulled, replaced by a quiet strength. He didn't need to fill the void with distractions or rush into new relationships. Instead, he invested in himself, runs, friendships, saving lives. As he turned toward home, his phone lit up with a group chat invite from the running club. He smiled, typing a quick reply. The horizon stretched wide, and for the first time in months, James felt whole, his scars a testament to survival, not defeat.